Hi guys, and welcome back here to the Dev Realm. And in the last episode we started to do our wheel, and in the episode of today we're gonna just do some refactor so our wheel looks a little bit better, right? So right now, as you can see, it turns right. So in the previous episode we had a little issue with the wheel that wasn't turning properly, right? So just a quick thing that we're gonna do here is that we're gonna open up here our master part here, and we're gonna do our part here to turn. So what I did here, I went ahead and I start to do the logic in here to turn the wheel right. But what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna just refactor this, and while we refactor, I'm gonna show what I did so you guys can place the right logic for the car turning wheel logic here. Right, so the first thing that we need to do here is that we need to make sure that we get the right part. So we're gonna eliminate this casting here. Right, so the first thing we need to do here is that we need to find our wheel. I'm gonna create another blueprint interface. So I'm gonna create here BPI blueprint interface, and I'm gonna call BPI wheel, right? And yeah, and now I'm gonna open up the interface, and in that I'm just gonna return wheel ref, something like this. And the actor we're gonna return is the wheel. And what we are returning is this BP base car wheel. BP base car wheel. Nice. Compile and save, that's fine. Now the next, actually we need to put this in the output, not in the input, sorry, my bad. So it's gonna put here. Wheel, nice. So the next thing you need to do here is that we're gonna just save everything. Open up our car wheel here. Let's add the interface. So go to class settings. Let's open up here. Actually, yeah, let's keep this interface. That's fine. It makes sense to be called wheel here. It makes sense. So in this way, that interface only relates to the wheel. So let's open up our interfaces in here, and now we have I return part reference, and I have return wheel ref. So let's open that the one with the wheel and just do self. The reason why we're doing this and we are not using this return the part reference is because the part reference doesn't necessarily give us what the parts they will have. So what we need in this case this specific object. Right, so we got that. Now what we can do here is all we gotta do here is for each part that we are looping, I can now get I return which one is the wheel reference, and now is the same thing as doing a cast here. Right, so what I'm gonna do here, guys, before we carry on with this, I'm gonna just organize this code in a way that makes sense. So remember that we have created a couple of things in here saying API turn front wheel, and then we have revert rotation front wheel, something like this. So what I'm gonna do here is that I am gonna create event a function. So I'm going to translate all this stuff here into a function, this one as well, so it's more organized here. Right, so first thing I'm going to do here before we refactor that is that we're going to create new function, and I'm going to call this reset wheel location, right? And I'm going to put this inside a category called controls, actually movement, yeah, sounds better. Right, so now what we need to reset the wheel is basically we need here first the wheel reference. So let's go ahead in here, let's create the entry point here as the wheel, and the type is going to be BP wheel, right? And this is going to be front wheel, yeah. No, actually no, this is just going to be BP wheel, because the wheel is the whole, we need access to the whole thing, so it's base car wheel. Yeah, nice. Alright, so the next thing that we need to do here is that we need now to copy this logic here that I'm going to explain what it does. So now that we have the wheel reference, we need to set the word rotation of our wheel mesh, right? If you go back to the wheel here, the wheel mesh is that. So we need to rotate this. So we rotate the wheel. The only problem that when we rotate the wheel is attached to our wheel axis, and the axis is locked to our body. So we kind of have to say, okay, axis, you're gonna be free for the moment. So we're gonna unlock you from the axis, from the body, and then we can rotate this part. So let's do that. So now to do this, we're gonna go back here. We're gonna get the wheel here, and we're gonna set. Let me just check which one we did here. The word rotation. There we go. So we're gonna set word rotation. We're gonna plug this here, right? And right now, what's gonna happen is gonna set the rotation to 0, 0, 0. The problem that we have here is that even if our wheel, like our wheel rotation needs to be always be facing front of the car, right? So the car, it doesn't matter which is the location, the wheel needs to be facing the front of the car all the times. The other details as well that I have about our wheels is that right now is set up the rotation here to 90 degrees. So the row is always 90. So you need to make sure that the row always gets us to 90. So what we're gonna do here is that we're gonna split the structure, and for the row, make sure you always leave 90 there. All right, cool. Now, the next thing that we're gonna do here, if I go back to my example, in the example, we need to get the attached body. And this is something new that I have done in off here. So I'm gonna show what I did here. So on the car wheel actor, right, I have created a couple of variables in there. So the first variable that I have created here, actually I just created one variable, which is called the attached body. And this variable is the body component that we pass as a reference from when we first set up the wheel. And the reason why I'm doing this is because in that way I always have the reference of the body that is attached to, so I can get that body and I can get the rotation properly. All right, so once you got that, so I just created a variable. So if you wonder what I did, I just did this, create promote to a variable, make sure the attached body is public, make sure that you tick that public, right? And the simulate physics here, at the moment I'm just set to false. And I think that's pretty much everything. On the part simulate here, I am leaving the wheel as selected, right? So now let's go back to our master car part, right? Now, let's get this attached body and let's get the word rotation. So if you go back here, let's make sure that we do this in a cleaner way. So let's get attached, how did I call my variable here? So right now, yeah, I put 3 T's here. That's not the way to do it. I'm just renaming the variable, right? So I'm gonna get the attached body, right? And now, because we're setting the word rotation, I need to get the word rotation of this part, right? Okay, and we're gonna split this as well. And now this is where I get fun, right? So if you go back to my example, note that I'm always setting my part, the X and the Z location to whatever is the attached body location, but not the X location. So let's do that. So in here, I am doing that here, right? But the location, the X row, I'm just leaving the way it is. So I'm not touching that, right? Now I have another problem here, which is that because our wheel axis is currently locked to the body, it won't allow us to move this wheel here. So what we need to do is that we need to do this. We need to set the constraints here to basically to deactivate anything here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to here. I'm gonna get PC axis, right? And in here, I'm gonna set the constraint components, right? Okay, so I'm gonna put this here. And now the parameters, you can leave everything as 0 because what we want is to don't set to anything. And the cool thing about this, and this is probably there is a better way of doing this. I'm entirely not sure. You guys could leave some comments just so if you find a better way, a better solution. But the thing that I find it here that it works is that because we're setting the axis to don't follow anything, it allows us to rotate our mesh, our wheel. And because our wheel here, the suspension is attached to the body, we're still gonna have the bouncy movement. And yeah, so nice. So that's gonna do what we need here. Now, what we're gonna do here is we can eliminate all this stuff here. We don't need that stuff, we don't need that. All we need here is to get our reset relocation. We're gonna put it here. And now we plug this here. Now we plug the wheel there. And that's it, right? Compile and save. So now, let me just pull this thing here back. And what I did here, guys, is that just to see if the car can move right, I just did the physics thruster. I just attached the physics thruster to my blocky component. I just make sure that it doesn't auto-activate. And what I'm doing here is when I press to go forward, I am activating that, right? That's all I'm doing here, just so I can see that my car movement is working fine. And let's see if this works. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna press C, come back there, press play, press W, and there we go. So the car now is working right. And as you can see, the wheel here, when I press to go forward, is rotating to the right place, which is great. Yeah, nice, so that works. Now let's do the left and right. I know my left and right now is working, but this is because I was testing this in offline. But now I'm gonna create another example here so we can do this from scratch, right? So you can go ahead and delete whatever we did here in the previous lesson, and let's create a new function here. So we're gonna create a similar function here. So you have reset relocation. We're gonna duplicate this function, and what I'm gonna call this is I'm gonna call turn wheel location, right? And the turn wheel location will need one parameter, which is going to be are you turning is right turn or something like this, and this is going to be a boolean, and there we go, right? So we do need this. We're gonna use the setward rotation. We're still gonna use this one here as well. But the difference now is that if you go back to my example, we have a couple of different things in here. So in this case here, if it's a positive action, that means that we are turning left. If it's a negative action, that means we are turning right. But notice that I am increasing the value here, right? So what we're gonna do here is that we're gonna go back to our relocation here. And I am just gonna create here a quick branch, right? I'm gonna attach this to here, and I am gonna create a local variable, and this variable is gonna be the rotation. Make sure you set the rotation as a float. And now we're gonna create two types of rotation. So if it's a right turn, we're gonna turn only 30 degrees. And if it's a positive turn, we're gonna turn 30 degrees. Alright? So far, so good. Okay, now this is done. This is all sorted. Now if you go back to our example, what we need to do here is that we need to get the attached part, and somehow we need to do some calculations in here. So what we need to do here, if we go back to our function, is that we need to keep our rotation here, and all we need to turn now is the z-axis. So the z-axis here is what makes our wheel here turn. If you look to that button here, to the yaw, is what makes the wheel turn. So we need to turn that thing on, right? So to do that, let's copy and paste here. We're gonna go back there, and all we need to do here is that for the z-axis here, the yaw, we're gonna do a plus. And notice that we're getting the attached part, so we always know the right location. Now we're gonna add the rotation here. and we're gonna plug this there, right? And that's it. And because we already know if it's positive or negative, we already know what's gonna happen. So let's just compile and save. Let's go back in here, and all we can do here, we can do pretty much the same thing here. So let me just put some space here. Just gonna remove that. So what we're gonna do here is that I'm gonna call the function, the interface I, return the wheel reference. Nice. So we got that part here. And then from this part, we're gonna get the turn wheel location. I'm gonna plug it in here. So this is gonna ask us for the wheel, and now this is positive. I'm just gonna change this to is right turn or something like that, just so we match the same array there. And let's see if this is going to work. So if I load my car here, press play. Yeah, so it works, but right now is the other way around, right? So let's just go back here and say, so what we need to do here, if it's true, actually just invert the values here. So it's 30, otherwise is minus 30. We just need to invert the locations here. And see here, play, and there we go, right? There's even a potentially better way we can actually do this, which is, I think it's something that we can do that here actually. So what we can do here, instead of using a variable, we can do something select. So we can select a float, right? And what we can do is put this here, we drop that, and basically if it's true, then what we're doing here is, I think it's minus 30. I'm not sure, we need to play with this value. And then if it's false, then it's 30. So that will kind of give us the same as the other way around. Yeah, so it needs to be the other way around. So this is, so it's 30 on top and minus 30 here, right? Compile and save. And now if you press play here, our car should be drivable properly, at least. Yeah, nice. So the next thing that we have to fix it here now, I think we're gonna do that probably in the next lesson. It's just that we need to make sure that if I am not pressing anything, then my my wheel just go back to normal, because right now we do have to press to go forward. But we're going to be doing that in the next lesson. So once again, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I see you in the next one.